Come and here, Day 2, 11 Days of Remembrance. Chapter 2, Taken Prisoner. Lloyd Kidd takes off his uniform and pulls on a dark blue turtleneck. He then dons his battle dress shirt and trousers and slips wool socks over his feet for added warmth. The Air Force issued overalls with zipper from the right ankle to the left shoulder are set aside. He will put those on afterward he visits the lanyard. Lloyd makes sure he uses the toilet before each operation, undoing the zippers and buttons of the overalls to relieve himself. At 18,000 feet in the air, frigid cold is a nasty experience that is rarely uh, repeated. After visiting the toilet, Lloyd strips into his overalls, then pulls on a pair of leather gauntlets over his slick gloves. The gauntlets extend past the wrists and will help to keep his hands warm during the flight. Lloyd reminds himself once again that while he in the air, he must not remove his gloves to use the flight instruments. If he does, his fingers will stick to the frozen metal. The cold in the aircraft rivals the winters back home in Saskatchewan. Lloyd chuckles to himself, remembering that one winter when he was just 7 years old. He tried to open the latch on the gate at home with his mouth because he had thought it was too cold outside to take his mittens off. Of course, his lips had quickly stuck to the cold metal, and his mother had to pour a pitch of warm water over the latch so that he could free his lips without pulling off the skin. She'd been laughing while she did it. Lloyd's own smile widens as the memory. After a moment, he shakes himself out of remembrance and continues with the preparations. Usually, he tries not to think of home. Almost done dressing, Lloyd steps into his pair of black flying boots. These are nothing more than rocking shoes, with sole and limb roll supporting up over the calves for warmth. In a small pocket inside the upper boot, Lloyd stores the compass and knife that the Royal Air Force provides to each aircrew in case of bailout behind enemy lines. The knife is for slashing away the knee extension of the boots, providing more mobility for cross-country hiking. Searching his pockets, Lloyd throws away any evidence that might assist an enemy interrogator in the event that he is shot down and then taken prisoner. Makes sure that he has his special pencil, also RAF issued. The pencil twists apart below the pink eraser, revealing a small map of occupied Europe, which escape routes marked. Lloyd slips a pair of his family into the New Testament that he received when he first joined the Air Force and tucks the Bible into his overall pocket. If of these items doesn't help him stay alive, perhaps another will. Lloyd Kidd is a wireless operator, Air Gunner WAG, posted with the number 78 Squadron at Middleton, George, England. It is the night of October 2nd, 1942, and there is a bomber raid scheduled for Kerfield, Germany. This is Lloyd's 21st sortie, but for some reason it doesn't feel like a routine run. take extra time. Lloyd puts his things in order, tidies his sleeping area, and throws out what he doesn't want praying eyes to see. He writes a letter home and leaves the envelope on his bed, sealed and ready for delivery in case he doesn't make it back. As he walks out of the barracks, the door to the building closes behind him without a hollow thud, though the sound shakes him. Lloyd continues walking. He heads for the parachute room where his suit is checked for safety. As it turns out, the suit is too wet to be usable and is issued a dry one. Stamped on the outside of a loaner parachute are the instructions: return in 48 hours. Lloyd takes these orders as a good omen. Unfortunately, his optimism doesn't last long. Right before takeoff, the G right aircraft radar malfunctions and has to be removed, already 20 minutes behind schedule. The crew realized that is no time to replace the unit, even though flying without it will make the night a blind target for night fighters. Runs to the problem. The crew sits tight as their plane climbs into the darkened sky. On the particular night, Lloyd is flying as an air gunner. The journey to the target is tense, and the crew is still half an hour off the bomb site when a Junkers 88 swoops down out of nowhere and nails the kite with both guns before anyone sees him coming. A stream of intentional bombs fires through the air, and both the starboard engines, the kite catches fire, and all power to the aircraft interior is cut off, as are the hydraulics for Lloyd's turret. The intercom is dead, leaving no means for communication. Evans urged to the pilot as Lloyd watches the smoke below from the two burning engines. The pilot orders the crew to abandon the aircraft. Lloyd obeys and fails backwards from the turret at 15,000 feet. His ascent is uneventful until he hits a tree and falls the last 10 feet to the ground below. He buries his suit quickly, managing to smile once again at the 48-hour warning written on its side. Cutting away his uppers, he ejects the escape kit and his pencil and leaves the landing site at a run. Hours right after the sun comes up, Lloyd finds shelter and bluff and falls into a restless sleep. He's woken up by the sounds of two children playing nearby and spends an uneasy couple of hours hoping they don't discover his hiding place. Once they leave, he does fiddly again, waiting for darkness to fall before daring to travel further. After a few more hours pass, Lloyd cannot stand to wait any longer. He crawls out of his hiding place at dusk, constantly making his way along a country road. He suddenly comes face to face with a German soldier. Then the soldier greets him with "Heil Hitler." Lloyd returns the greeting and salute, and the jury is on him in an instant. Lloyd is marched at gunpoint to the nearby village and locked up for the night in the local jail. All of his possessions are confiscated except the Bible and the picture of his family. Early the next morning, Lloyd wakes up to find two Luftwaffe officers of the mighty German Air Force standing before him. They have come to transport him to a fighter station and offer him a German cigarette and a black beard and started sandwich. Knowing his stomach couldn't possibly handle the smoke of the food, Lloyd refuses the offer. He is then taken to the train station and sent to Frankfurt am, Maine, home of the Lomond Underground Center. Bracing himself for Lejeune, Lloyd's anxiety mounts as he recalls the stories he heard about the horrible treatment endured by prisoners of war in Germany. The interrogation process is awful as Lloyd feared. After refusing to answer any question, he is stripped of his clothing and left overnight in a dark cell without food, water, or the comfort of a blanket. In the morning, cold and desperately hungry, he is questioned once again, and once again he refuses to repeat anything but his name, rank, and service number. Days pass, and after enduring an exhausting series of interrogations and service assertions on food, water, Lloyd learned that the Oni is finished with him. He is put on a train headed for Stellenviebad, a German prisoner of war camp near Lernfjord, Poland. There are several compounds at the POW camp, and many prisoners there are Canadians who were captured in France. Their hands are tied with twine from Red Cross parcels, and from the look of the angry red aberrations near the foot near the arrival, Lloyd is given the same treatment. The Germans explain that they are extending their revenge for what the English are doing to German soldiers in British POW camps. After a few weeks, the twine is cut off and replaced with handcuffs, leaving sores that are slow to heal. After months later, these also are removed. Life at the camp is anything but pleasant. To the prisoners' comfort, Summers, the Red Cross, sends parcels that contain tons of spam, cigarettes, chocolate, clothing, and other items. That these parcels are the only luxury keeping many of the men alive, as their daily rations are compared of chunk of black bread and a bowl of cabbage soup. Lloyd dreams often of the black bread and sausage sandwich he declined as he was first captured. In January 1945, the POWs heard the bombing of guns, millions of guns, as the Russian army closes on the Polish border. To prevent the Russians from getting their hands on the prisoners, the Germans decide to evacuate Stellenviebad and transport the men to another camp. Each prisoner is given a Red Cross parcel and wearing only the films of clothing that are marched out through the snow. The POWs refer to this as a death march, as many of them won't survive the ordeal. The prisoners march until darkness falls, and the Germans order them to stop. Lloyd spends the first night of the journey sleeping on a coal pile. His feet are burst. He takes his boots off before going to sleep. When he wakes up in the morning, his feet are swollen and his boots are frozen stiff. Not having much choice in the matter, he jams his sore feet into the boots and marches another full day. The next few nights are better as the guards find hay left for the men to sleep in. En route, Lloyd develops a severe case of dysentery, and the medical officer deems him too ill to continue the march. The German soldiers have him leave him at a train station with another group of POWs being transported to a different camp. As the situation, the prisoners are packed 40 plus into livestock cars that are meant to hold 8 horses. The railroad cars have no windows or ventilation, and the sliding door are locked from the outside. Each car has a small can in the corner for human waste. Most of the prisoners are exhausted. No one can lie down because there is the room. Lloyd is still very ill, but this is nothing he can do but endure. Overnight, he's suffering from dehydration. The prisoners finally let out of the boxcars during the scheduled stops for water. The men pour out the cars like drunken sailors, eager to the thirst. Lloyd stretches and endure the freedom of the open air and enter the rations of water. As he drinks, Lloyd suddenly hears the unmarkable sound of a North American P-51 Mustang fighter plane in the distance. His heart skips a beat, and he begins to search the sky. With a number of Mustang fighters coming into view, Lloyd and the other prisoners wave fervently as their allies smile and hopeful, but before the men can hope for long, the Allied fighters dive at the train with the guns blazing. Germans and Bells alike are mowed down when they stand. Lloyd leaps for the safety of a nearby ditch and lies as flat as possible as a Mustang passes over around him. The dirt puffs as .5 caliber shells casings pump the ground. For a moment, he despairs that the thought of being killed by friendly fire after having waived the honors of POW camp. While Lloyd takes refuge in a ditch, the Germans began to fire back at the Mustang. Sings. Soon the plane leaves the area, no doubt believing that the mission was a success. Lloyd emerges slowly from the hiding place, and though he is relieved to have survived this latest ordeal, he is neatly saddened by the carnage that surround him, leaving him the dead bodies where they fell. The train tracks. The remaining German soldiers gather the surviving prisoners and continue the journey to Sterteg Axie near Kassel, Poland. The living container for Lloyd at Sterteg Axie are not much different than those at the previous camps, where cabbage soup and hard black bread are served once a day. 3 times a day the prisoners are tortured by the smells of the meals being prepared for the guards. For some of the men, the food stations is so dry that they hunt rats and devour them with relish. They are eat worms, beetles, ants, anything else that can be chewed and swallowed. Even with the containers of camphor, the camp has a band, an orchestra, a theater group, and a football team. The prisoners are also related to take part in work due to leaving the camp under heavy guard to patrol on a road construction or community improvement projects. Though no one enjoys the work, it gives them a break from the camp and takes them the concept of having for food. Occasionally, a prisoner attempts an escape. Cellular ecstasy is a simple compound enclosed by wire fences. When a prisoner dares to step outside the wires, however, the German guards are swift. For the lucky ones who are caught trying to escape, death comes at a quick blast of bullets. For the not so lucky, punishment is slow and brutal. would-be escapees are beaten almost to death, and the, then return to the beds. Brother ambushed, Lloyd sees the men suffer and knows that the best chance for his own survival is to simply wait and endure. Lloyd Kidd became a POW in October 1942. He is finally released when the camp is liberated and closed by General Montgomery and his desert rats in April of 1945. Within a month of being freed, Lloyd is on his way home to Saskatchewan, still carrying the picture of his family. The picture is worn, faded, and bent, but is intact. That's the end of Chapter 2. I'll read Chapter 3 tomorrow, and I'll, I'll dedicate these videos to the people fighting in Ukraine for their freedom so they can be a country and a democracy. And so thank you to the veterans so I can read this book and make YouTube videos.